So I mixed and mastered an entire worship set just using Analog Obsession plugins. This is kind of what it sounds. Check it out. This is amazing. Stay on this video. I'll show you exactly what I did. Welcome friends to Music Gear for Worship, where we make videos, we find tools for worship productions, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I made an entire mix and how I master or try to master just using Analog Obsession plugins, at least most of them. All right, so let's get into my computer. I have a session already open, Reaper, and at the end I always use this dynamic range meter and reloud master track. So I always have those plugins at the end of the signal chain. So let me show you what the end result sounds. Let's see, what song is this? Okay, this is the song. Okay.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus over every heart and every mind.
All right, so that's the first part. Then it goes.
Your name is light.
This is where the band comes in.
Break every stronghold, shine through the shadows, burn like a fire. I just want to speak the name of Jesus.
Okay, and then from there it goes into I think the bridge.
Down Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name, Jesus. Your name is power, your name is healing, your name is life.
All right, so that's how it sounds mastered, or at least I try to master it. There's still a lot of tweaking I need to do to this track, but this was good enough. At least they agreed for this because it kind of sounds like the live mix. There's some more details I gotta break down on the effects, but let's break down the entire mix. Let's just pick everything and let me show you what the mix sounded without the master track. All plugins, but no mastering at the end.
Down Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name.
So that's what that sounds. Let's go in here and select all the tracks and take out all the plugins off. Let's just click that. And this is just the mix that we recorded without any plugins.
Down Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets.
Put the volume up a little bit.
Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, Jesus for the family, I speak the
Put in the plugins.
name, Jesus. Your name is power, your name is healing.
And the master signal chain.
Your name is life. This is break every stronghold, shine through the shadows, burn like a fire.
So that's basic, the entire mix. Now, before I start throwing any plugins, what I do is I try to get a good balance of the whole mix. And what does that mean to get a good balance? Well, first of all, I make sure that the gains, they all match. This is what I would recommend you. Get the whole mix of the band. Let's turn all the plugins off. Okay, so the first thing I would do is I will mix the drums first. I would jump to the bass, guitars. We have a Nord. So we have kick in, kick out, kick in, snare top, snare bottom for the snap, tom one. We don't have a tom two, so that's why it jumps to tom three. Hi hat, overheads, left and right. Then it goes into two buses, which is a drum bus that has just EQing. And then I have a reverb for the drums, which there's a room reverb and an EQ after it. And then it jumps into the bass, which I'm using a tooth pre, using an EQ and low end enhancer. It's called low end. And there it goes to their own bus. From there, the electric guitar, left and right, it goes into a guitar bus, which has a little bit of compression, EQ, and an enhancer as well. It's a little bit of different enhancer. And then before that, there's a little bit of tube preamplification for the sound. Then it goes into the Nord, left and right piano to its Nord bus. And then the pad from the Nord, left and right, the same to Nord pad. And there's a little bit of compression and an EQ in each one of them. Then from there, it goes into the vocals, 3 vocalists. Now, I have like a special way to pan my vocals. Let me pick this section here that I have all 3. So each one of them is panned to the different stages of the song, so the entire service when I mix it. So let's just say that I go to open the panning feature. I go to panning and I put visible. You see on the first song, she's panned to the middle. She doesn't really sing much in the first part of the song. So she's in the first song, she's panned completely right, at least 50%. And then she's panned to the left, but it puts it in her middle because when we recorded, she was panned completely to the left. So this way, it kind of centers her for this song, and that's the way that we record it. So in the DAW, I'm able to switch from left to right with this feature that I love in Reaper. Usually when I mix them and try to master the songs, or at least get them ready for them to send to master, I use only a Reaper because I create my own buses and it's very easy to set up your scene, and I use plugins left and right. So from there, let's turn that off, not visible. And if I turn on, let's say, the backup vocalist, let's go in the pan. You see she's panned differently. She leads the second song. So she is center in the first song. I mean, in the first song, she's completely left because she's a vocalist for that area. Then our, which is Ariana, and Courtney is panned to the left for the first song. Second song, Ari is the lead singer, and everybody else is panned left and right. Same for the first song. Matthew leads the first song, so he's center, and Ari and Courtney are panned 50%, just around there, left and right. So since Courtney leads the first song, Ariana is panned to the left, and Matthew is panned to the right. So that's basically how they'll look together. Let's just put them all visible so you can see it. And let's go to Matthew. Open this feature, go to pan, and put visible. That way you can see how the panning works. And I love this feature in Reaper that I can just go ahead and place it where I need the panning. That way I don't have to be turning it or finding where the center is. This way it's just set after I record it, and I need to worry about the songs. Another thing that is very useful is I break every song individually. So first song, second song, third song, so I can do all the panning and I have an idea what I'm doing instead of put them individually. That way I can hear all of them in one shot and kind of mix it as it goes. And I have another one, same for the volume. So that's the panning. Let's turn it off. And I think I have one for the volume as well. So, the volume, you can see it here, is actually visible. So that way I kind of have my gain structure, if you can call it that, pretty level before I start turning up or turning down faders. I find that that's a faster way to be able to finish everything. I kind of put it where I think is best. So if you could look at the gain level, Matthew is higher than the first song. Ariana is higher. in the second song, and the vocalists are less. For the third song, Courtney is higher than Matthew and Oriana, or this is Courtney, and you can see the gain structure. So that is very helpful before I start throwing all my plugins in. Then after that, once I have my band going, let's just turn on the vocal bus. Mute it, mute. In where's reverb? Once I have the band going, oh, also I forgot to talk about, we have track left and right. Also has a little bit of EQing and a little bit of compression. So that helps a lot to get started with all the plugins. Now, I'm gonna talk about my favorite plugin that was able to help me to get things done quickly, especially with the instruments, because I want to get as quick as possible to the vocals as fast as I can. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, very important for me when I'm doing this kind of mixing is that I leave enough volume for mastering. I don't try to, how can I explain it? So I don't try to master it when I'm mixing. I just trying to get levels set. And something that also would help you is to get a reference track. Do I have a reference track here? I do have a reference track. I always try to get one of those going because it's a huge help. Now, the volume in this is like halfway from its original because it's already being mastered. Let me play it. Hope I don't get in trouble for playing this on YouTube. So I try to not specifically match the tone, but at least to be able to hear the instruments like the reference track. It's something that you got to practice on. It's hard to do. Sometimes I just listen to ones and then kind of have the idea and I just stick to that idea. As I go, once I'm done with everything, I'll match it and I'll make a couple of tweaks. And usually I talk to the worship leader or somebody else to get an opinion. Does this sound good? This stage is good? Okay, and then I'll continue with the rest ones. Okay, so the plugin that I use for most instruments, and it's the plugin that I really like, that I think it's in most of them, it's this one called Loaded. And basically, it's a channel strip. I think it's, I had to read about it, but it's a channel strip called the S500. And it has a reamp. It has your de-esser for vocals. I'm not using it for drums or anything else. It has this gate and compression. You have your gate, your EQ, compression, and your output, which is very, very handy. Let me show you on the kick how much it changed the sound. So let's solo here and let's hear it. Let's turn on the plugin. So I was able to focus it like very quickly. I'm thinking of posting the video of how I mixed it, or kind of like my reaction video to Analog Obsession. And I did a ton of reading about what can I use, and I started trying plugins. Once I got an idea, I start using them. And this one I really like for all the instruments. It's in most of the instruments, and I think it's on the vocal. So loaded, and it was great to get a good drum sound out the gate. Let's go here. Which one? Oh, I have solo here. Let's turn in all the plugins for the drums. No plugins. And this is with the plugins. It's not a huge difference, but it just helped me focus all the drums very quickly. So let's turn on the it's called Frank CS, which is a 4-band EQ with a compressor, which is amazing. It was very helpful just to throw one in instead of two plugins. This is like a 2-in-1. This is without the EQ at the end. And this plugin and this bus just brought it to life. I really like that in this signal chain. You can use a lot of plugins in Analog Obsession. I mean, there's a lot of plugins that you can use. I only read about the ones that I could use, and right now I'm very excited, and my CPU usage is like low. I'm recording on my computer, and I'm also viewing this with all these tracks, and my CPU percentage is like 1.4. So it's amazing. It's very low CPU usage, and I'm excited to try to use this actually in a DAW and stream it live with these plugins. So let's keep going. Now let's open up the drum reverb and so I'm using the Room D41. Is it that one? The Room O41. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's not like, oh wow, it's just like a room reverb, but it's very usable. You got your pre, your delay, dry and wet, which I really like that. And then you have like a post EQ, so you can like make your EQ sound very good. But I also throw in this plugin that's called Frank, and I just boosted the mid frequencies on with this EQ. This is an amazing EQ if you want to focus an instrument, especially guitars or something that you want to enhance the mid frequencies very easily without having to go through a lot. This is so easy to use. So I really like this Frank plugin for this reverbs or guitars or anything that you want to zone in a certain frequency. It's just so musical. Slower the drum reverb. All right, that's pretty good. All right, let's jump into the bass. So basically, the bass is just you know, a DIN, and once I turn on the effects, it changes. So the highlight on this is this 2 pre. I really like this 2 pre. I didn't even have to do any changes to it, and started making a really good sound. The second one that I use is the Frank CS, which has a compression, a little bit of EQing on it to kind of give me a little bit of mid frequencies and low end, and it was missing a little bit. Let me show you what it sounds without the last plug-in, and it sounded like this. But I wanted a little bit more of low end or like a sub low end, so I use this plugin called Love End, and it just gave me this massive bass sound. This is what it sounds now. All right, it might be a little bit much, but I really like some of the plugins that are in this style. There's one for vocals. There's one for, I think, certain instruments for drums. It just makes it very, very interesting. Use this plugins. It does a lot of things with just 3 knobs. So I really like this for bass. So let's move on into. There's nothing else on the bus for the drums. It's just. All right, let's go into guitar. So basically I throw in the same tooth pre and I boost a little bit of the high, a little bit of the gain on it, just make it a little bit greedier. And let's turn it in. Let's see how it sounds. Let me turn this off as well. Let's turn that up. I could use a little bit of low on one side. All right, so that's how it sounds. Let's turn on the master bus and it changes the sound. It's just slightly compressed, and I'm using this amazing compressor. It's called Comper, which is 2 compressors in one, and you can run them in very different ways. You can run in VCA, FET, or Opta, and the second one you can do the same. So you can kind of like stage compress or parallel in serious reality. But this compressor is amazing. It just helps you focus some sounds very, very easily. And I use Frank again and just zone in on those mid frequencies. And at the end, I'm using this plugin. It's called Real Life. And it just brings the whole mix a little bit better. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes not in a good way. But I guess in the sense of the mix, it just made it sound a little bit better to cut through. Let me show you what it sounds with the mix. Let me boost it a little bit. Here goes the comper. Here's the comper. Let's turn on Frank. That mid frequency, just jump in. And this kind of zones it in. Let's bring on the output a little bit. There it is. I think that will sound a little bit better. Okay, that was very interesting. I like it. It didn't change so much the sound on the guitar, but it makes it just work on the mix. Okay, so here in the Nord, I only have the same. I'm using the comper for this instruments just to compress not so heavily, or not to use only one compressor to try to get everything together or make it sound good. So I did on the bus. Let's see how it sounds, because there's two, the pad and the Nord. This is without any plug-in. Let's turn it in. So it's a little bit more focused. So I'm using the comper. It doesn't cut through. Now it cuts through, and the Frank is the same. I'm boosting those mid frequencies and the high frequencies. This is without Frank. It must sound great by himself, but in the mix it didn't sound great. So this helped a lot. It's just the piano drives that part. Now let's jump into the pad. It's not necessarily to have a great pad sound. So let me turn on the effects. And it's basically the same. The comper, just used in a different way where it sounded good. And Frank again. So this is without comper and Frank. It's a little bit dull. I didn't want to bring it boosted necessarily on the fader. But with the comper, it stands out a little bit, and I'll focus it with Frank. Frankly. So you can kind of hear it in the mix, but it's not so driven. The piano and the guitar is a little bit more driven with the bass and the drums. Okay, so let's jump into the tracks, because the tracks is like another instrument or multi-instrument. And for the tracks, I use Frank CS. And this is when kind of, I could use it for other things, but it was very easily to compress it in EQ just with one plug-in because it's here and you can see how it reacts. So you have the high pass filter, and then you can attenuate the low pass filter. And here's your compression, which is very, very dynamic. I really like it. This is what the tracks sound like. Let's turn on the plugins. It's just a little bit focused, and it's not really doing much here. I can put up the output a little bit. And then again, I'm boosting those mid-high frequencies a little bit. I'm putting a little bit of high pass filter because without it, it doesn't sound that great. Let me show you. It just cuts through a little bit better. Let's hear in the mix. So basically, once I have like a goal overall band sound that is just driven, is dynamic, it's got all the things kind of have their place, and the panning and everything is done, then I jump into the vocals, and I kind of start individually mixing them, and then I jump into mixing them in with the band. And for that, I use Loaded. I started actually with Loaded, and it was so easy to get the sound right, you know, especially turning this preamp for the microphone was very helpful. So let's go with Courtney. Let's solo her vocals without any effects.
Your name is power.
It's a big difference. It just jumps in, but it's kind of not just volume up, but it's focus for her to cut through. Let's take everything out. You know what? Let's turn on all the effects, and I'll go. It'll be better just to turn them on one by one. So this is her, right? So she goes in,
Your name is power.
back up and back up.
Your name is healing. Your name.
So I kind of set them up where they all sound good together,
Yes, it is. Break every
and then I'll start focusing on her. So here's Loaded, which is the first effect that I use.
shadows burn like a fire. Yeah.
Okay, and then also we have Autotune. It's what's it called? Autotune Pro by Antares, and it's just chromatic. I didn't do much, just the speed a little bit lower, and basically I leave it humanized 100%. But I know that this plugin does a lot just by its default, so I just leave it there. And then I would just change to soprano, alto, low female, or instrument. But she's a really good tenor, so we just leave it in there. And this is what it sounds like with the autotune. It's not working much.
Jesus in the darkness over every
Very lightly.
enemy. Jesus for my family. I speak the whole.
Now, I would recommend you not to use autotune when you're using your plugins. Just use your plugins, and then at the end, throw autotune on. This plugin was amazing. It's called Sweetbox, and it also has a de-esser within it. It's very mild, and it has a process. There's a lot going on. I'm not entirely sure what they're using, but whatever is it that this plugin is using for vocals, it helps the mix. So let's take out Loaded, and let's hear it.
Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my
It just sounds great.
family. I speak the holy
Now with Loaded.
name. Jesus.
So that helps a lot. Now autotune.
Your name is power. Your name is healing. Your
So now she's cutting through, and it's the same with the vocals. Let's go back and throw this in.
Jesus in the streets. Jesus in
Sweetbox.
the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my family. I speak the holy
then load it. Add a tune.
Your name is power. Your name is healing. Yes, it is. Break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows. Burn like a fire.
All right, so that sounds good. Now let's look at the effects I use for vocals, and basically is one bus for reverb, one bus for like a long delay, and one for a slap delay, and they sound like this. There's nothing to it, just the same the room for her vocal.
Jesus in the streets.
Let's turn it on. And then with Frank CS, it's just a little bit compressing, a little bit of compression, and then just that EQ, taking out the low end and the high end just to focus that reverb. That's without EQing. A lot of sibilance. So with the EQ, kind of focuses a little bit better.
Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name.
All right, so for the other delay, I didn't find any delays from Analog Obsession. So what I did is I used my good Valhalla delay, just a duck white vocal delay, and for the slap it's just lo-fi old vocal slap, and there's nothing to it. A little bit of EQing on the big delay, and it sounds like this.
Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over
And then the slap delay.
enemy. Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name. Jesus, your name is power, your name is healing, your name is.
And that is my initial mix. Once I have that where they like it, not necessarily that I like it, I'll take notes and we go back and forth. I show them what it sounds and they say, okay, yes, no. And then from there, once they're happy, I do like a pre-master bus where it's just a few effects together. This is without this section. It's not going to change much.
Jesus in the streets.
It's just kind of like a pre-master bus with the effects. So I have the SSQ. I had Loades, which is a de-esser in output or like a channel strip. Then it goes into, sometimes I use this limited amplifier. And then it goes into this 2 preamp. Sometimes I use these, sometimes I don't. And I just have them there so I can turn on and turn off my effects and see which one sounds better in the mix. So they're just there. See, real life is here again. Just to give a little bit of life and that shape, just a little bit. They're just microscopic changes that I use. Then I use this blend EQ, which is amazing. You can blend frequencies. So I'm blending a little bit the low frequency here, and it's amazing. Then from there, I go to the rare EQ, which is a stereo EQ. And it's just focused. This one's focused on high frequencies. I'm not really doing much in the low end. And at the end, I'll just throw in Frank again, and I focus some of the frequencies that I want. Nothing on the low end, nothing on here, or a high pass filter or low pass filter. It's just a little bit of those mid frequencies boosted, just very minimum, like 3 dB. And once I have that going, it sounds like this.
Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy. Jesus for my family, I speak the holy name.
Hey, baby. Oh, okay. I'll make some coffee right now. I just finished it. All right, I had technical difficulties, but I'm back. Once I have all the effects in this master bus and everything sounds at least pretty level, pretty well balanced. I'll take notes. I present the mix, and then we will move on to the next part, which is getting the loudness and everything kind of like a master. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I'm a master engineer. You know, I'm not an expert on it, but this is what I've been reading about and kind of following through what I've did a little bit of research on the internet. And the way I finish this chain is I start with a comper. It's very mild, just very little details, very little increments. Then I go to this de-esser for the sibilants. You know, it helps a lot. It's the same. I just put it where it sounds okay. Then I would choose either this OSS or the Lala limiter compressor or amplifier limiter compressor, limiting amplifier. So they're both limiters and the same. They compress. One, you can change it to limit or compression. Sometimes they work together, and I'll see what works the best within the mix. Then I use my two metering, which one is my dynamic range, and this is a RIA master, and they work perfectly fine. All together, it sounds amazing. And let's hear again what the final product it would sound like.
Declaring there is hope and there is freedom.
Go to the middle part.
Your name is power. Your name is healing. Your name is life. This is break every stronghold. Shine through the shadows.
I was able to do all this with Analog Obsession. There's only two plugins that I really use, which is Valhalla Delay and Valhalla Slap Delay. And that was it. Everything that you hear in the mix is all Analog Obsession. And it sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the results, especially the amount of good sound that I was able to get. Maybe not at the end on the master chain, but as far as for my kind of my initial or my last mix before it goes sent to master, somebody else that could do it way better than me, this is pretty good. I mean, we liked it, and I think that if you're looking for plugins to mix and master your worship service, Analog Obsession has a lot to offer, and they are completely free. That's something amazing. I think we're going to sponsor, or we're going to donate some money to the cause of the guy that is developing all these plugins. And the CPU usage is very, very low. That's another thing that I realized that sounded great. My other reference signal change that I really love is STO Hub Control Hub. And that one is, I mean, only one plugin, everything you needed to finish your product was great, and I'm using just a preset. And let's see how it sounds. It sounds something like this.
Your name is power. Your name is healing.
All right, friends, so I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have questions, let me know in the comment section below. You can also visit my website where I have free resources. I'll be putting up a small, let's say a course where how I record all the stems, or how we get our stems out for mixing, how I go through the process of recording everything, how I monitor. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's very fun. And once you have like a guideline, it makes everything easier. And at least the way I've been doing it now, it takes me less time to turn around a mix. It doesn't take days. You know, it might take the most about 2 hours, 3 hours to finish all this. But also is that now we have a good way to record all the tracks, and that's very important. And that makes a huge difference. I mean, every little step makes a huge difference. Getting good audio from the source, that's number one. Then recording it in a way that it's not clipping, which is another problem we used to have. And then learning, let's just say, signal chain for plugins, a little bit of everything, compression, noise gates, and especially training your ears to hear those things. Using reference tracks, which it's huge help. Using reference tracks with multi-track, so you can at least hear each instrument individually. That's also huge help. And there's a way to do it where you don't necessarily need to be buying all the tracks from, let's say, from all the worship songs that you hear, but there's ways to kind of like monitor those frequencies, and it's amazing. There's another plugin to do that, and I also use it as a reference, so at least our sound is not like them, like the bands we hear, but at least it's close to what most people are used to. And we just want to bring a better quality in 2024 to the audience that watches the live stream. And also we are really thinking, I'm thinking of helping the church to stream through to a DAW through Reaper, which is amazing. And we use the Midas M32 console. Yeah, the Midas M32 console, which is amazing. Still, it might be a little dated, but it works amazing. I really like the sound, especially the recordings are great. All right, friends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment if you have one. If you have a question or suggestion, they are welcome. You can do it in the comment section below. And please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, just hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so YouTube lets you know every time we make new videos. Thank you so much for staying at the end of this video. I will see you in another day. God bless you all. Ciao.
Praise you in the valley, I praise you on the mountain, I praise when I'm sure, I praise when I'm doubting, praise when I'm numbered, praise when surrounded.